Hey, it's Ashley and I'm back with another haircut tutorial. Today we're going to be doing a number 3 taper fade and trimming the top. Starting off with a number 3 guard, I am going in and working from the parietal ridge and cutting everything below that. So I like to go in and remove a lot of my bulk, and then I'll make sure I'm going back over everything so that it's nice and clean. I'm also going to brush that hair down to make sure that I'm getting any longer hairs, because we definitely don't want anything kind of hanging over this clipper cut number 3. So going into the back of the head, I'm going to do the same thing, and you can use your comb to really meet that longer hair at the top together with your guard and make sure everything's down to the correct size. So to taper in the sideburn, I'm going to open up my clippers and just tap below the top of the ear and slowly fade into that number 4 guard. So leaving that, it's going to create a lot of space for me whenever I go back in with my trimmers. So going in again with my number 3 guard and starting at the parietal ridge, working my way right underneath it and cutting that hair that's hanging over on top so that everything's down to the right size, so it's not hanging over when I'm going back in trying to blend everything together. So then I'm going to start going with the curvature of the back of the head and making sure that I'm keeping everything below the occipital bone so that we can keep those cowlicks in the back down. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other side by opening my clippers and tapping in right below the top of the ear. And then as you can see, I can use my comb and meet that half open clipper to that number 3 on the sides. And then if you want to come back in and blend it a little bit more, you can go in like I am with a number 1 and just tap out those sideburns so that everything blends together. This makes sure that during the haircut, you are having a nice clean area, and whenever it grows out, that's not the first thing to grow out. So you can see I'm going to go in with my number 1 guard on the back of the neck to start out my taper. And I am tapping about 1 inch above the natural hairline, and then going in, opening that 1 to a 1.5, and tapping about a 1/2 inch above that 1. Then I'm going to go into a 1.5 guard, tapping lightly into my already cut hair and making sure that I'm blending everything really seamless. You can see I opened up my clippers and now I'm going back around to the other side with that 1.5 opened. I'm really using majority my 3 teeth at a time and kind of just riding out the occipital bone in the back of the head. And then going in with that too and repeating those same steps, working my way to one side, opening my clippers, and then working myself back to the other side. Now that I got my 2, I'm going to just go back in with that number 3 and make sure everything is blending really smooth, and then opening that 3.5 and just tapping into that cowlick. So now I'm going with my trimmers. I like to do all of my dry work first. And if you're still here for this video, please make sure you like and subscribe. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers. I couldn't be more appreciative. So going back into this clipper work, I am making sure that I am detailing all of my sideburns and hairline on the natural hairline. I'm really not cutting in to my client's hairline. I want to follow the path that it naturally grows, and this will just leave a cleaner lineup. Now using my comb right here with my trimmers, these are wall detailers. I will have them linked below. Make sure you check them out. This is my second pair and I absolutely love them. My first pair lasted me about over 1.5 years, which I do around 3,000 haircuts a year, so that's amazing. Now following this line behind the ear from that natural hairline, and that's where I'm going to work this down. And you can see it naturally goes to where that hair is tapering off itself so that I don't have to cut into my client's neckline. I can just follow the neckline and make sure I'm cleaning up any fuzzies And then if I want to taper that one in a little bit more, I'm going to use my comb like I just did and kind of grab those hairs and taper them in a little bit more. See right there, I'm kind of getting those corners because they have some cowlicks in them. And then going in and cleaning up any neck hairs below the cape. After that, we're going to go ahead and start working on the top. Now, I'm going to wet the hair down, and I'm not worried about the bangs too much because I'm going to blend my sides first. So I sectioned out my parietal ridge and kind of brushed over my hair, and now I'm going in at a light 45-degree angle and just blending everything from that number 3 guard into my longer hair. As you can see, I'm matching that hair and cutting it at an angle so that I can leave this cowlick a little bit longer. Now, you can see that the longest piece of hair is at the top of my fingers, and I am following my number 3 guide. And we're just going to do this around the cowlick, and that'll make sure that everything falls really seamless and blends well with that longer length in the front and the shorter length on the sides. Now I'm going to go in and just kind of lightly clean up anything that overhangs on the top. Really making sure, since it's wet at its most, natural length, that I'm cleaning this up really well. Once I do that, I'm going to kind of push it out of my way and then make sure that's all just blending seamlessly. I'm going to go in and start to kind of cross-check my work I just did with my scissors. So again, I want to leave that hair on the top long, so I'm just going to lightly trim up these corners, and you can see I'm following my guides that are behind my fingers and my guide from what I've previously blended into that number 3. Now, to leave those bangs a little bit longer, I'm going to just lightly touch up these corners because I don't want a lot of overhang on the sides, but I do want longer length in the back. So cleaning up this cowlick, I'm just going in and cross-checking what I did with my hands and shears. And then I can use that same length to cut what I need on the other side of my cowlick. And then once I reach that point, I'm going to cross-check that again, making sure everything below that occipital is trimmed down. And I haven't cut this side, so starting to blend over on this side, I'm going to come back and do just like I did, separate out my bangs. And I'm going to start blending from that number 3 at the bottom to my longer length at the top. Now I'm pulling my comb out at a 45-degree angle on the head so we can leave some length at the top and make sure we have a nice seamless fade. Now to cross-check that, I'm just going to parallel my shear over comb and work my way up, making sure I'm pulling out little by little to keep length at the top. Same thing, we're going to match this with the back side of the head, and this is how we know everything's pretty concise. Once we get to this corner, we're kind of finishing up this haircut. Our last part is going to be cutting the top and the bangs, which we're going to spend a little bit more time on the top, so make sure that you watch this to the end. If you are struggling with scissor cut, I'm going to walk you through it step by step. Now I am just going ahead and blending everything, making sure all my corners are cut and that it's blending really seamless. So here we're going to start to section out our bangs. I am going to wet them down since I didn't soak them the first time when I wet the hair. And now I'm going to cut about a little less than 1/2 inch. The client didn't want to take much off his bangs but did want to trim it. And once I cut that length to the same length everywhere on this side, I'm going to go back in and lightly point cut my bangs. I don't want them to stay super blunt, so I do like to just add some texture after I get everything down to the same length. Now I'm going to go over to the other side of his bangs and I'm going to repeat those same steps. I'm going to start in the middle and I'm going to find my guide from that length, and then I'm going to trim off. And I did notice earlier whenever I was cutting his hair that this side was longer to begin with, so that's why it's looking like I'm taking off more hair. And that happens. Sometimes hair grows funny, or it just was cut a little bit longer last time. So again, I'm going in and point cutting these bangs after I have everything cut down to the exact same length. Now I'm going to go ahead and section out my middle guide that is going to determine all the rest of my haircut and match up everything else to the blend that I did on my sides. We're going to go ahead and grab this middle section, and we're going to find our bangs length, and we are going to pull up straight and point cut everything into that bang length. And then I'm going to do the same thing until I start to reach the back of the head where I've already cut my cowlick down to length. And you'll be able to see right here, I have one corner left, and that is usually where my cowlick blends right in. Now that I have my middle guide sectioned out and cut, this is going to determine everything else. We're going to go ahead and create some more guides, and we also have that middle guide to follow. So as I section this out, I am following the length of the bangs. As you can see, those bangs dropped out, and I am just point cutting all of this to length and making sure I am following it all the way to the back of the head into where I've blended everything to that number 3. Again, gonna pull up, find my bangs, point cut everything that is longer, and then go ahead and move towards the back of the hair. Once I have this side all cut to the same length as the bangs, I'm gonna pull it over and do like I did on that other side where I cut everything down. I am matching it to the bangs. And then I'm going to just lightly blend everything around. So you can see me take off this corner, and this is the corner created from me cutting the length on the top and the sides. This is my last piece I usually cut, and this is, indicating to me that I'm almost finished with this haircut. So I'm making sure as I go around that everything is looking really blended and nice. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Starting a little bit further from that middle section, we're going to pull up, point cut everything to length, and then we're going to work our way back to our cowlick, and one more step back till we match. And so that match, I didn't have to cut it. Pulling up, we're going to blend to the bangs. You can see the bangs are in the furthest part of my hand, and I am point cutting everything to length. Same thing here. And so point cutting, you want to make sure that you are going in and cutting when you are pulling out, so that you are not cutting your fingers when you're going in. And then again, we're just going to make sure that this side meets those corners. We're going to cut them off, and we're almost finished up with this haircut. If you've stayed this long, I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. We are almost at 10,000 subscribers. I am more than excited, guys. Thank you so much. So here we go. We're just going to blend everything. We are cross-checking. If you don't know what cross-checking is, it's when you cut hair all one direction. So I pulled everything straight up and diagonal. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut everything horizontally. So I'm going in and finding anything that's a little bit longer and just kind of evening it out and making sure that it looks really concise. So continuing through, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm pulling up, I'm looking at my middle section, and I am looking at my sides. Middle section and sides all looked good. There was no major corners. So I'm going to shake this out. This is normally how my client wears it, and I always offer them a wash. Today my client did not want to wash it, so I am going to blow dry it to double check everything, and I think it looks fantastic. Tell me what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.